Right. Hi, Dr. Juno. Good afternoon. Happy Sunday to you. So my name is Simeon Ajayi. I'm making this record or this video of this presentation to present my story map for my semester project for MPH 521A, Introduction to Environmental Health. All right. This story map was based on my on the topic that I chose, which is reducing the use of paper products such as paper towels, paper napkins, papers for printing, and then switching to Google Books and Audibles, another single-use paper product in our daily life. All right, so I actually chose this topic because I found out that based on my past experience from my home country, as a medical doctor, as a medical practitioner, I was exposed to a lot of paper waste use of paper product, single-use paper product, which I noticed that, there could be other alternatives to these, because, we use papers for documentation for patients, for clinical notebooks, for patients documents or clinical case notes. So I noticed that at times when I see a lot of bulk of papers being used and then some of them being wasted, and I noticed this could actually be a source of environmental pollution, and then source of a deleterious effect or harmful effect to our environment. So that was the major source of inspiration that made me to go for this particular topic as my semester project. And of course, I found it very interesting journey over the 14 weeks for the semester project. And well, I would like to share with you the interest or the beautiful thing about my semester project. And I want you to join me as I go ahead with presenting the story map that is based on semester project. So this story map will be divided into different segments. The first, 10 different segments actually. The first is the introduction and background. The second is the problem statement. The third is objectives. For introduction and background, that's the first. Second is problem statement. Third is objectives. Fourth is methodology. And then fifth is the alternatives. Those are the alternatives I used, alternatives to the paper product that I used as a form of intervention. And then also the next part of my project of the story map is the week by week activities, and then also the results, the explanation of the results, then the experience and my discussion at large, and then the data projection if I'm to go ahead with this topic or with this project for a year. So we'll look together at the projection and what the intervention will actually do, the effect the intervention will have on reducing the pollution or the extent of pollution that a paper product causes to environmental health. And then, of course, we concluded with the conclusion. All right, so this is my picture interface for the story map. From this picture, we could see a lot of paper product, a lot of sources of paper product ranging from as you can see here, ranging from the paper, the toilet paper to the newspaper to boxes that's used to wrap shopping product, and then food boxes as well, like milk, name it, the McDonald's, all these eateries, or restaurants, food packaged, and then paper towels as well. So this serves as like a capture of all the possible sources of paper product that we can have, and then those are the paper product that I actually worked on my semester project, which I'll be presenting. All right, and then on this left here we can see a waste bin, and which is tagged paper, which is to show that the waste bin is meant for disposal of the paper. All right, so as a form of my topic, my story map will be presented under this topic, from waste to wellness. from waste to wellness, a sustainable path for paper use. All right, introducing paperless pathways and then paving the way to a greener future. A captivating story of my daily use of paper product. Repeating my name again for emphasis sake, my name is Simeon Ajayi, and then I'm presenting this on the 10th of December, 2023. All right, so as a form of introduction and background, as part of my, as I mentioned before, as part of my introduction to, as part of my course requirement for Introduction to Environmental Health, which is MPH 521A for fall semester 2023, I was required to work on reducing the use of single-use paper products, such as paper towels, napkins, and the likes. And then my goal is to switch to a more sustainable alternatives like Google Books or Audibles. I mean, Google Suites, like Google Microsoft, Google PowerPoint, or Microsoft PowerPoint, Microsoft Word, Google Word, and then Audibles as well as an alternative. And then so the excess use of single-use paper product is a significant contributor to environmental health or environmental pollution in my own country. Like I mentioned before, what really gave me the drive or really gave me the inspiration to choose this topic was the fact that back home as a medical doctor, I was exposed to a lot of use of paper products. Although there are some places that I worked that were using electronic medical records, which is the use of system or laptop or desktop to record, to document patients' clinical profile. However, most of the hospitals that I have or that I worked in, both teaching hospitals, government hospitals, private hospitals, they still make use of paper product or papers as their major means of documentation. So, and I noticed that this really contributed to a lot of environmental health pollution, because these papers most times were littered along, littered on the way, causing, of course, various sort of disturbance to the site. And also these papers were disposed, and then disposed, which I'm sure that the form of disposal can contribute to the environmental health pollution, environmental pollution. So this, what I observed is what made me to choose this topic, to go for this topic. All right, so the use of single-use paper products generate a large amount of waste, leading to, so this is talking about the effect of single-use paper product. It leads to, number one, overflowing landfills and possible natural disaster. So from the disposal of paper product, it can lead to, if it's improperly disposed, it can lead to overflowing landfills, and then natural disaster like erosion. All right, and then constant production of paper also requires the use of trees, because most of these papers are gotten from trees through, through different strenuous and extensive procedure or process. And then constant production of this paper can lead to deforestation, because we tend to use more of these trees to produce papers without replenishing it. So it leads to deforestation and then negatively impacting biodiversity and the habitat loss for many species. That's one. And also the manufacturing process of this paper product requires a significant amount of energy and water. And this in itself can contribute to resource depletion and greenhouse gas emission. All right, so the chemical process that is being used in this paper production can also release harmful chemicals into the environment, and this can affect water quality and aquatic life. So these are the processes, or these are the mechanisms through which production of paper product, actually disposal of paper products or use of paper products, can contribute significantly to the pollution of our environment. So it can lead to deforestation. It can lead to depletion of energy and water, which are the significant resources, and then it can lead to production of chemical processes, which can serve as a form of pollutant to water quality or water and then the aquatic life. So to address this issue, I'll be substituting paper products with reusable papers, double books, and electronic materials. And I'll be using myself as a case study to assess the effectiveness of this intervention. So join me as I embark on this semester-long project to reduce the use of paper products and promote sustainability. Thank you. So now to the problem statement. The rampant use of disposal paper items is causing a grave environmental concern. And the issue arises from overconsumption and improper disposal of this product, resulting in deforestation, pollution, and waste management predicament. So this story map, the point or the particular the purpose of this story map is to strive to heighten consciousness regarding the adverse ecological impact of the disposable paper and inspire individuals, corporations, and policymakers to embrace sustainable substitute to alleviate the harmful consequences and safeguard the well-being of our planet. So this is just an image, or let's say a video, that shows this is a common actor, or is a popular actor rather, that we all know. It goes by the name, I think Tyler, not sure of the name now. I think that should be Terry Allen. Sorry, Terry Allen. So that's an actor. He can be seen trying to dispose a paper, which it doesn't look happy disposing anyway. So this, of course, shows the minor way that we contribute to paper products, and then of course its subsequent or its consequential effect on the environment. So the objectives for this story map is to address environmental health implications that's caused by disposal of paper products. That is, to explore the potential environmental health hazards that is linked to the production and disposal of single-use papers. And also to promote responsible consumption. Is to also to provide practical tips for reducing, in essence, to provide us with intervention or the solution, the alternatives for reducing that use, so that we can reduce paper usage in daily life and workplaces. And then also to inspire action from the results that I've gotten from this project or experiment or research that I did for 14 weeks. The results actually shows that it's possible to actually reduce the way we use most of these paper products, also, or find a way, if we can't reduce, if we can't replace them, if we can't completely replace these paper products, we can actually reduce the amount of these paper products that we use. So is to heighten our awareness about the use of paper products, my use of paper products, and then by extension, our use of paper products. And then also to make us aware of the fact that it is possible to take action and then to also reduce the production of this paper product. And also, and then of course, inspire action. And also lastly, to measure impact. So I also, with the aid of some mathematical calculations, I was able to measure the impact of, and then to track the environmental impact of reducing single-use paper consumption. So this is another image that shows a heap of paper products. Come on, this is very, very huge heap of paper products. And if this is left for a longer time, it can cause a lot of pollution to the environment, ranging from the chemicals that's being used to make the paper, and then also the chemicals causing a lot of pollution to the water and aquatic life. And also, this can also cause a lot of landfills, and then contribute to erosion and a host of other environmental source of environmental pollution. So the methodology, I gathered this data over a 14-week period, divided into 2 phases based on my daily activities. So I divided the 14 weeks period were divided into 2 phases, which is the first 5 weeks and then the later 9 weeks. So the first 5 weeks was meant for so during these first 5 weeks, I had no intervention. I was just recording. The only step I took was that I was recording my data. I was recording the number of paper products that I use per day. All right, with the help of Google Datasheet, which we still talk about. I will still talk about later in the presentation. So I was able to record each paper, my daily usage of papers, and then of course I was able to record it every day. So that's what I did for the initial 5 weeks. I didn't take any intervention. So I was using the paper products the same way I was using my paper product or those paper products before the semester started. All right, so that's what I did for the initial 5 weeks. Then the subsequent 9 weeks, I those were the weeks I took some interventions, which are the alternatives, such as reducing some of those paper products and then replacing the ones that can replace, I replace them. All right, most of the paper products I use, I replace them. So this what I did, and then I also recorded the data that I've got from the data sheet. So in contrast, during this, okay, so this is just talking about the alternatives, what I did in the first part of the project, the first 5 weeks, and then the last 9 weeks. So it is worth noting that the paper product I employed can be separated into 2 categories, the recyclable and the non-recyclable. So the examples of the recyclable paper products include printing paper, shopping boxes, for example, from Amazon or U-Haul, newspaper sheets, and mail posted in mailboxes. And then the non-recyclable paper products include the paper towels, toilet paper, napkins, food packaging paper, mail cartons, paper cups, pre-moistened wipes, and paper sandwich bags. So I meticulously recorded data from both pre and post-intervention phases and have it detailed in the table 1 below. So this is just an image showing us a robot that is sorting out recyclable form of paper product for composting, which is one of the processes that we have in recycling of paper products. All right. So the alternatives to paper product that were used in the paper project include these were the alternatives that I employed in the to paper product in my project. Alternatives to paper product I employed in my project. So number 1 is the use of napkin, cloth made or cloth napkin in the kitchen. So I noticed that majority of the big chunk of the contribution of my paper of use of paper product is from the paper towels I use in the kitchen. All right, so I use these paper towels to clean the surface of the sink. I use this paper towel to clean the surface of the cooker. I use the paper towel to clean the surface of my plates, my kitchen utensils, and all. So I noticed that this was really contributing to the amount of paper towels that I was generating as a waste. So I used, instead of this, I used cloth napkin. Also, I reduced the use of toilet paper to strictly clean up after using the toilet. So at times when I use toilet paper, apart from cleaning up after using the toilet, I also use toilet paper to clean the surface of the sink, my wash and basin in the toilet. So I also use it to clean, but I reduced strictly. I mean, after the during the intervention phase or post-intervention phase, I reduced the use of toilet paper to strictly cleaning up after using the toilet, and then I employed the use of cloth napkins to clean the other surface of the sink, the wash and basin. And also I devised the use of cloth towel to clean surface of the basin in toilet after washing my hands and brushing my teeth to keep it clean. And then also I started using more of Google suites, like Google, like I mentioned before, Google Word, Google PowerPoint, and the likes, to access my lecture notes offline. And this proved effective in reducing the amount of papers I would have to use to print. All right, so this is table 1 showing the data that I collected from tracking a 14-week period daily use of paper products. Now, if we look at this table, we can see the number of the paper products that are being used, that are being subjected to the research that I did in this section. And then we can see week 1 to 5, which is the before intervention period. And then we can see week 6 to 14, which is after intervention period. All right, so the classes of papers that were used can be seen here. How many sheets of paper towel, toilet paper, paper napkins, paper used for printing, paperboard packaging used for food products, carton that would make shipping product, for example, Amazon, paper cups, newspapers, wipes, paper sandwich bags, and mails posted in mailboxes. So these were the paper products that I subjected or I used for the project. All right, so and this is my result. There's, if you notice here, there are keys that I put here, N, 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 R, R, R. So I classified, like I mentioned before, I classified my product for easy, for better understanding of the effect of my project or the results of my project. Which I'll still talk about. I had to classify my products into the paper products into non-recyclable, which stands for N, or which N stands for. and then recyclable, which R stands for, all right, so which I mentioned here, N for non-recyclable, R for recyclable. So these are the results, this data I got for week 1, for week 2, week 3, week 4, week 5, week 6. So this is just a table showing the data I collected. So I'll be talking next section. I'll be talking about each week's, how I came about the data and my daily activities for each week. So, excuse me. So now to my daily or my weekly activities. So before intervention now, which is week 1 to 5. For week 1, on entry this week I entered US from my own United States from my home country. So during this week I had to put up with my cousin who stays around before securing my personal apartment. So I spent this week at my cousin's place. This maintained my use of paper towels predominantly used in the kitchen to the numbers as seen on my weekly data sheet. Ditto the toilet paper. So being a new semester, I had a lot of lecture slides as well, and I prefer to use hard copies because that's what I'm used to right from Nigeria. So I had to use the hard copies of lecture materials. So I had to print most of those lecture materials, and then which is the reason for the surge, the increase in number of printed papers I used. So this is seen here, the week 1. I could see the day 2, the number of printing papers that I used was 30, which is quite much because, I mean, I'm already used to printing a lot of papers and reading hard copies and the likes. So, and then on day 4 as well, 20, so which is quite much in the high. And then the paper towels that I use were these numbers that are seen here. So which brings to a total of 25 for paper towels, toilet papers 30, and then printing papers 50. And then for the packaged paper food product 1, and then for the milk carton to oat milk 1. All right, so to week 2. In this week, I moved to my apartment. I had to shop for household items, electronics like irons and blending machine, and kitchen utensils like pot. So these items actually, as we all know, they come wrapped in cartons made of paper. Also, I've started cooking in the kitchen during this period, and I have to use paper towels since I cook myself compared to when I was not cooking at my cousin's place in week 1. So furthermore, I was using toilet paper to clean the sink surface in the toilets. I also had mail from banks and companies delivered through my mailbox. So these contributed a huge percentage, very big percentage to the amount of paper product I used during this week. So these reasons were responsible for the numbers seen on my data sheet here. So this is week 2. Can see here that, sorry, I didn't put the paper product, but just to, so this is the paper towels, toilet papers, yeah. And then these are the printing papers. And then these are the mailboxes, mails or mailboxes. And then these are the food items, food product, and then cartons. So I got these a lot because I was trying to move to a new place. So I had to get a lot of milk products. I had to get a lot of beverages. I had to get a lot of cooking utensils, which comes with a lot of paper and boxes. So those really contributed to the surge in the number of paper products I used during this week. So week 3, I incorporated using napkins made of cloth in my kitchen to clean the sinks and table surfaces, reducing my use of paper towels. Also, I had fewer notes to print compared to week 2. And also, I started using cloth napkins instead of toilet paper to clean the skin surface. So at this week 3, although I had not started using, it wasn't my intervention week yet. However, I noticed that I was becoming aware of the amount of paper product I was using, I was using or producing per day. So, I mean, it's a subtle, or per week rather. So a subtle awareness brought this subtle reduction in the number of paper products I use. So that's why there's a little bit reduction in the number of paper products that has been generated here. All right, so week 4, I traveled to Carlinville for a retreat, which meant I would not cook. So most of this week, I was at a retreat in Carlinville. and this significantly reduced my use of paper towels and no use at all for some days. Like days like day 27 and day 28, I mean, it was limited because I was away, I was not at home. So also this was exam week for one of my courses for which I used to. So one of my courses, which is epidemiology, I used to print lecture notes for that particular course. So this week was an exam week for that particular course. So I mean, and during the exam week, we don't usually have lectures. So I didn't have any lecture notes to print during this semester, during this week. So that was responsible for the amount of paper product I have there. Then week 5, excuse me. Then week 5, this week was also a little bit quiet. I used paper towels in excess compared to previous we used on day 34, which was due to some cooking I did in the kitchen. So on day 34, I used a lot of paper towel, which is 10, because I made some cooking. I had to I shopped and I had to cook all those what I shopped and then to store inside the refrigerator. So I had a lot of cooking, so I had to make a lot of cleaning. So that's why the staff was responsible for the surge in the paper towels I used. So now those makes up the weeks for the before intervention. So now after the intervention, so week 6, this week marks the commencement of intervention. So the interventions I took to reduce my use of single-use papers include the use of napkins made of cloth in the kitchen instead of paper towels. And I made sure to reduce the use of toilet paper to strictly cleaning up after using the toilet. Then I also devised the use of cloth towel to clean the surface of basin in the toilet after washing my hand and brushing my teeth to keep it clean. So this intervention proved to be effective, evidenced by the reduction in the use of paper towels and toilet paper. Also, I started using more of Google Suite to access my lecture notes offline, and this proved effective in reducing the amount of paper I would have to use to print. So you can see the effect here. So naturally, I was having a lot of high numbers for the paper towels, which from these figures here are shown as to have reduced, and then the same thing for ditto for the toilet papers, and then also for the printing notes too. It also reduced my use of paper product because I had already substituted that with use of Google Books. All right, so week 7, this week was quiet. I continued with my interventions, which effectively reduced my use of paper materials, from the use of napkins made from cloth to clean the sink surface in the kitchen and the basin in the toilet, to the use of Google Suite to access most of my lecture material. So this trend continued as well, and I could see the reduction in the number of paper products, which is evidenced by my data here. To week 8 and 9. So week 8 and 9, I continued with the interventions during these weeks. This reflected in my use of paper products generally. I now enjoy using cloth napkins instead of paper napkins. So I was getting used to my interventions already. So like the cloth napkins, I was able to get, and now I enjoy using it instead of the paper napkins. Also, I've learned to start reading from my laptop with the use of Google and Microsoft Suite materials instead of printing lecture notes, which I was used to previously. So this is the data for week 8 and 9, which I can see here, which we can see here. So week 8, we can see a significant reduction compared to the previous weeks. So here we have, just ignore this week 7. So starting from day 50, you can see for paper towels, we can, just four products for week 8, then 2 products for toilet paper, and then the same thing for week 9 too. So it has reduced significantly. So to week 10, this week was quiet as usual with the continued intervention. However, there was a slight increase in the number of printing papers used. This was due to the printing of papers for a closed religious group meeting I had during this week. So I had to print out the program order. Aside this, the trend followed the usual trend. So the reason why I had some is kind of surge or increase in the number of printing papers that I used during this week was because I had a religious activity during this week, for which I had to print some of the papers or the pamphlets to use. So this, of course, generated some papers, some printing of papers that I used. So that was what contributed to this figure here. So week 11, the interventions continue, no unusual increment in the number of in the use of papers. Instead, I noticed my use of papers of any form has been declining with intervention week 6. Also, we can see the figure here. It's also I've been following the same trend, downward trend. All right, so week 12 to 14, as the end of the semester project draws near, and from the data I gathered over the past 3 weeks, I have not observed any significant changes in the established pattern. Through my efforts, I have successfully integrated new alternatives for the single-use papers that are habitually utilized. This project has allowed me to recognize the deleterious impact of single-use papers on our environment, and has also given me hope that I can curtail, and in general, we can curtail their production and preserve a sustainable LD ecosystem. So this is the products, this is the data for week 12 to week 14 here. So it is shown here. So the same trend, 5 for toilet paper and paper towels for week 12, then toilet papers 4, then the rest is 0. 4 for paper towel here, and then 5 for week 13, 4 for paper towels, 5 for toilet papers, and then the rest is 0. Then for the week 14, which is the last week, 3 for paper towels, and then 3 for toilet papers as well. So this marks the end of my weekly activities. So the next line of action is to talk about the my results. All right, so so drum rolls. So here comes the results. So we'll be talking about the results from my data based using 4 charts. All right, so I'll be using 2 bar charts and then 2 pie charts. So the first of the bar chart is this figure 1, and this is the bar chart showing the trend of use of paper products before and after intervention. So this bar chart is actually, let me say, it shows an overall like overview of my usage of paper product for the 14-week period. And it's cumbersome, I know, but it just shows, I mean, the trend of events, the trend of use of paper product for the 14 weeks period. So the horizontal axis shows the number of the weeks. This is week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, week 5, week 6, 7, and through to 14. So before, just for clarification, for purpose of clarification, before intervention is week 1 to week 5, and after intervention is week 6 to week 14. So these are the keys I have here, and this is color-coded. So this PT is here, the keys is here. This PT here stands for paper towel. TP stands for toilet paper. PM stands for paper napkins. PP stands for printing paper or paper used for printing. Then BC stands for breakfast cereal. Then MJ stands for make, juice, or similar product. Then SP stands for shipping product. CPB stands for cup, papers for cup, plates, and bowls. Then NS stands for newspaper. WP stands for wipes. PSB stands for paper sandwich bags. MB stands for mail posted in mailboxes. So we can see here from this bar chart that, and this is color coded. So you can see here that week 2, from week 1, it was the usage. The vertical axis is meant for the usage of paper products. So you can see here that the vertical, for week 1, the use of paper was a little bit high, up to 50. And then that's for the paper, printing paper, which is orange here, which is this color, which is here. And then for week 2, we can see the surge. The surge is high, all right? And we can see the blue paper, that's the paper towel. That's the majority, contributed to the majority of the surge that we're having in week 2. And then followed by the toilet papers, and then the printing papers and the like. So the same pattern for week 3. I noticed by this week 3, I was already getting used to the alternatives a little bit, although I had not started I was becoming aware. I've not started the alternatives. I was becoming aware of my use of paper. So this is the printing paper tool. And then this also suggests that the trend is coming down. And then week 4, it came down a little bit. And then week 5 went up again. So week 6, from when the intervention started, which is week 6, we noticed that the trend became lower. The surge became lower, and then up to week 14. So this bar chart is showing an overview of the paper product that I used, and then the trend over the 14 weeks. So now to the second bar chart. So I had to calculate because the first bar chart that I mentioned we discussed earlier is kind of cumbersome because I had to put those condense all those paper products into that particular bar chart. So it's not easy to be able to relate with each of the paper products. So I had to categorize these paper products into 3 different sections, which is the household papers, the shopping papers, and then the stationery. The household papers, the shopping papers, and then the stationery. So the household papers were the printing, the paper toilet, paper towel rather, the toilet papers, the paper for, that's the PN, that's the paper napkins, all right? And then CPB, which is the cup, plate and bowl, and then the WP is the wipes. And the shopping papers is the BC, which is the breakfast cereal. Also MP, which is the MP. All right, I think that's a mistake here. So it should be MJ. So MJ, which is the milk juice and the similar products. So that should be MJ. All right. So, and then SP, which is the shipping products, and then PSB, which is the paper sandwich bags, and then stationery, which is the printing papers, and then NS, which is the newspapers, and then the MB, which is the mailboxes. So I had to categorize to make for an easy and a clear representation of my data. So this is the table that I used in constructing this particular bar chart. So before intervention, the household papers that I used were up to 320. And then after intervention, they reduced to 106. Then the shopping papers that I used before intervention were up to 30, and after intervention, 0. So the stationery that I used before intervention were 106, and then after intervention was 5. All right, so this is represented here. The color coded, the household paper is in blue. The bar chart, so the horizontal axis represented the weeks, so which is now condensing to before the intervention, which is week 1 to 5, then after intervention, which is week 6 to 14. So we can see here that before intervention, household paper really contributed to a lot. It contributed a lot to the number of papers I used before intervention, and then followed by stationery, which is the printing papers, and then lastly the shopping papers, which is made up of the milk, the shipping product, and all those paper products. And then after intervention, we see here that albeit the household paper was still there, but it has reduced significantly from over 300 to just above 106 and 100, just about 106, which shows that intervention is quite effective. And then also we can see here that the stationaries reduced from 106 to about 5. And then the shopping products reduced from 30 here to nothing. So it shows that the intervention was actually very effective. All right, so to the third chart, which is the pie chart. So for the pie chart, I actually divided the paper product into the recyclable papers and the non-recyclable papers. As this will set the tone to understand the effect of disposal of paper products on environmental health. So the concept is such that the higher we produce a lot of recyclable papers, the better. because recycled papers, due to their ability to be recycled back into the ecosystem, so they tend to reduce, that tends to reduce their effect or deleterious effect, harmful effect on environmental health. All right. So based on the fact that they can be recycled back to the emission into the ecosystem, so there will be a lot of depletion of or deforestation. There will be a lot of landfills. There will be a lot of erosion, and there will be a lot of chemicals released into the environment, into the water. However, it is noteworthy that to note that these recyclable papers, during the process of recycling, there's a lot of generation of chemicals. All right, there's a lot of generation of chemicals, usage of energy, usage of resources, which is depleting, which is not being replenished, and as such is depleting the environment. All right, and then also this during the process of recycling, a lot of combustion and then a lot of greenhouse gases are being emitted into the environment, which causes a lot of air pollution. So here, and then the non-recyclable papers are the worst because they can't have any form of introduction or reintroduction back into the ecosystem. So we have a lot of them, contributing to a lot of deleterious effect on the environmental health. So you can see here the recyclable papers before intervention, which is marked in, I think this should be orange now. Yeah, I think this is orange. So before intervention, recycled papers were 95% of my papers, of the paper product that I used. And after intervention, it was reduced to 5%, which is a huge reduction from 95% to 5% of my paper product. So before intervention, it contributed 95% and then to 5%. So you can see that this is a huge reduction. And then this table shows the table I could use in constructing the pie chart, both pie chart. Then the non-recyclable products, before intervention, it contributed, I used like 77% of non-recyclable papers, all right? And after intervention, reduced to 23%, which is also a huge change or effect that the intervention had on my use of paper product. All right, so so now to the explanation. I've basically talked about it, but just to give a clearer picture to it. So the bar chart in figure 1 depicts the usage of paper product over a 14-week period, which is divided into 2 segments before and after intervention. The chart reveals the intervention measures such as switching from paper napkins to cloth ones and using Google Maps, Google or Microsoft Suite on laptop, which are the positive effects. So upon analyzing the data, it's evident that the usage of paper was high before the intervention, were reduced after the intervention. This indicates that the intervention was effective, and it needs to be tested for a longer period to ascertain its sustainability. And it's also worth mentioning that during the initial 3 weeks of the project, the usage of paper products was at its peak and gradually reduced before the intervention. This is due to the fact that the project was making me to be aware and be mindful of my paper product, even though I had not started implementing the intervention. So moreover, the usage was at minimum peak during week 8, 9, and 14, indicating I was cautious in following the intervention during the initial phase. Although the usage slightly increased as I got used to the intervention, it started decreasing again from week 13, suggesting that the intervention is becoming more sustainable. Overall, the chart demonstrates that the intervention measures were effective in reducing paper product usage. And this observation suggests that with a little more time, the intervention could be further strengthened to make it a sustainable and long-term solution for reducing paper product usage. So figure 2 showcases a bar chart that delineates this figure 2 here. All right. It's it showcases a bar chart that delineates the usage of paper product over the course of 14-week project period. The chart classifies the paper product into 3 categories: household papers, shopping papers, and stationaries. Unlike figure 1, the total number of paper products utilized during pre-intervention period we quantify, and post-intervention period with 6 to 14 is aggregated, which is summed up. So the horizontal axis depicts the pre- and post-intervention periods, while the vertical axis depicts the number of paper products used. Each bar is color-coded to denote the corresponding category of paper product. Upon scrutinizing this chart and analyzing it, it becomes apparent that household papers such as paper napkins, toilet papers, and the likes are the most frequently utilized paper products on a daily basis, followed by stationaries. So as I do not dine out or procure product online, shopping products do not feature prominently in my usage, which is from here. So it shows that from here, shopping products were not really as much as these other two products. So furthermore, the intervention implemented was effective in curtailing my utilization of the most commonly used paper product, which is household paper. So since the majority of household papers are non-recyclable, reducing their usage is the only way to mitigate their detrimental environmental effects. So the interventions executed were successful in accomplishing these objectives. So now to the pie chart rather. So the pair of pie charts illustrate the utilization of paper products separated from into recyclable and non-recyclable categories. So this breakdown provides insight into the environmental impact of my routine consumption of paper products. Notably, Figure 3 exhibits a considerable drop in the utilization of recyclable paper products from 95% to 5% following the intervention. So this outcome serves as an evidence of the intervention's success in mitigating the usage of recyclable paper products, thereby curbing energy consumption, minimizing resource depletion, and reducing greenhouse gas emission that is usually generated from the recycling process, and ultimately preventing environmental contamination. So as depicted in Figure 4, there was a notable decline in the consumption of non-recyclable paper products before and after the intervention, plummeting, which is reducing or declining from 7% to 23%. The intervention proves to be highly effective in reducing my contribution of non-recyclable paper products. This is a significant step towards enhancing environmental health, since non-recyclable paper products cannot be reintroduced into the ecosystem and their usage significantly depletes it. Moreover, the combustion and landfill of such products causes air and water pollution, among other harmful effects. So now to the overall experience and discussion. So since the beginning of StoryMap, you and I can, of course, be a witness to it that it's been such a very interesting journey. Actually, it's very exhilarating, and this has heightened my awareness of my environment and the impact I can have on its well-being. Nevertheless, its extended timeline may present some obstacles because it's for 14 weeks, and then there were some challenges I encountered, which includes I had trouble accessing my data collection tools, specifically my Godot datasheet, until we fall due to technical issues. However, with the help of my able instructor or project supervisor, who is Dr. Juno Stretzer, I was able to resolve this issue. And then another challenge I faced was being consistent in recording my data. I have to input my data daily into a Google Sheet, which can be a bit tiresome, and at times I forget, right? And then recording data on paper napkin and toilet paper usage can be subjective, because now there's no, for the paper napkins or toilet papers, there's no specific standardized unit for quantifying the amount of paper used. So determining how much of products that should be considered as 1 unit or 2 unit or 3 units remains unclear. So as a result, I've had to use my discretion and make the best possible judgment when recording this information. And I also encountered a few obstacles while implementing the intervention. Certain aspects of the intervention proved to be less straightforward to adapt to. For instance, utilizing Google Suite in lieu of printing my lecture notes presented a minor challenge, as I tend to prefer the hard copy. So normally I'm used to hard copies, reading with hard copies. Printed papers or printed copies of my lecture notes. But because of this intervention, I've had to adjust, which wasn't, for the first few weeks, was not really very easy, but with time, I actually adjusted. So additionally, the switch to cloth napkins in lieu of paper napkins required additional washing and detergent purchases. So I also struggled with remembering to implement the intervention occasion due to lack of familiarity with it. So however, with a sustained effort, these issues can be resolved over time. So in the initial stage of my project, I encountered some difficulty in keeping track of my daily use of single newspaper. My frequent forgetfulness regarding the amount of papers I consumed each day was a primary cause of this challenge, because at times I might forget that I have to record this amount or record this paper. So times I forget the amount. So however, I was able to overcome this obstacle by utilizing a small trash can to collect all the paper products I used throughout the day. At the end of each day, I meticulously checked the can and recorded the data on my Samsung Note application. So because my Samsung Note application serves as a source of like a diary for me. So I kind of included or recorded those daily use or those number of papers that I use daily into my Samsung Note. And then after the week, I just transferred those information on those data into the Google data sheet that has been provided by the project instructor. So this approach averted any potential recall bias that could arise from trying to recollect data at a later time. So overall, it was a truly remarkable and engrossing experience. I gained a greater awareness of how my actions can actually influence the health of my planet. While my individual contribution may appear modest, the potential positive impact of implementing this initiative on a larger scale is truly staggering. The benefit of the environment will be incalculable. The benefits of this intervention to the environment will be incalculable. So initially, I found it challenging to adapt to the alternatives to intervention. However, with consistent practice and patience, I eventually became accustomed to them. It was a gradual process that required dedication and persistence, but it was well worth it in the end. By using these alternative interventions, I was able to achieve better results and improve my overall performance. Despite the initial difficulties, I'm now grateful for the opportunity to try something new and expand my skills. So now, the data projection after a year, excuse me. So going to the projection. So if I had continued this project for a year, I would like to know what the data will be like, and then what it will this will help to have an insight of the effect that the intervention will have on a larger base, like looking at the bigger picture on a larger base, the effect that this intervention will have on the reduction of paper product reduction in usage of paper product and its contribution to the environmental pollution. So using this table above, so using this, because this classifying or categorizing my papers, or the use of the papers I used into household papers, shopping papers, stationery, gave me a kind of clear understanding to how much papers, how much of each of the categories of paper I use. So it appears that from the batch that I discussed earlier, it appears that most of the paper product I use daily comes from the household papers. All right, so this is why I use this particular table or information or this data to do my data projection after a year. All right, so using this table above, after 5-week period of no intervention, which is this, I noticed that I use a total number of 320 for the household papers, and then 30 for the shopping papers, and then 106 for the stationery that I used, excuse me. And then after 9 weeks of intervention, I noticed that I used 106, all right, of household papers, and then shopping papers 0, and then I noticed that the stationery use was 5, all right. So all right, so okay, so if the period of no intervention continues for a year, we'll have the values below, which means that if this period had continued for a year, all right, period had continued for a year, to mean that I would will have the values below, which means that I will use 3,328 number of household papers, and then 312 shopping papers, and then stationery, which is 102. All right. So, and if the period of intervention continues for a year, that's if I had used the intervention consistently for a year. If I continue to use it for a year, these are the values that I will have. All right. Okay, so I will have this. Okay. Okay, so to get the effect of intervention on daily use of paper product for a period of 1 year, so it will mean that I will use number of paper used, no intervention, all right, minus number of paper used, intervention, over number of used paper used, no intervention, for times 100%. So effect of intervention of daily use of household paper for 1 year means that I will deduct, since I said effect number of papers used, no intervention, which is 3328 minus 612 over 3328 times 100%, which means that if I had continued with this intervention, I will reduce my daily use of household papers for a period of 1 year by 81.6. By 81.6. All right. And then for the shopping papers, there was an error here, which I will correct. I will correct before publishing the paper, the story map. Sorry for that. So actually, the shopping papers, going by this formula, it should be the shopping papers is 312 minus 0 over 312. All right. Okay, times 100%. All right, which means that it's 100% reduction. So to mean that 312 minus 0, which is 312, over 312, which is 1, times 100%, which means there's 100%. If I continue the intervention, to reduce, the intervention will reduce my daily use of shopping papers, all right, for a period of 1 year by 100%. So, and also effect of intervention on daily use of stationaries, which means 1102 minus 28 over 1102, all right, times 100%, which is 97.4. So which means that if the intervention has continued for a year, it will reduce my daily use of stationaries for a period of 1 year by 97.4%. So have you had the good news? The good news is that my intervention actually will be very effective going by these figures. So in conclusion, the environmental impact of paper products should not be overlooked. There are two types, which are the recyclable and non-recyclable. The non-recyclable paper product can cause severe damage to the environment, such as deforestation, pollution, waste, and carbon emissions. However, the recycled paper products are a better option, but it's worth noting that recycling requires energy and resources, which may not be sustainable in the long run. As depicted in this story map, if we reduce or replace our use of paper products, we can make a significant difference in reducing environmental pollution and resource depletion. This is achievable and easy to implement, as demonstrated by this project. In essence, change begins with you and I. All right, so that marks the end of my story map. Thank you so much.